Amnesty International has condemned the execution of a political dissident in Bahrain. Isa Kambar was put to death for the murder of a policeman in recent unrest, but Amnesty said he was denied proper legal representation at his trial. It was Bahrain's first execution for 20 years and underlines the government's determination to stamp out a 15-month campaign of dissent.
These are pictures the Bahraini government would rather you didn't see. Britain's close ally in the Gulf has strict media controls, and the only way pictures of unrest reach the West is when they're smuggled out like these. Predominantly Shia demonstrators want the restoration of the National Assembly, dissolved by the Sunni government in 1975. The crackdown has been brutal. Bahraini police have been raiding mosques on a daily basis, like this one at Senabis. There's no way the claims can be independently verified, but dissidents say the police shot the place up using live ammunition and gas canisters imported from countries like Britain and America. Several Bahraini dissidents have been tortured to death as unrest threatens to destabilize the Sheikhdom. Bahrain is a regional financial centre, essential to the Gulf oil industry, and an important base for Western forces linked to Gulf security. The Bahrainis are blaming the mullahs of Iran for sponsoring the uprisings, but Tehran insists its hands are clean. After 15 months of protest, the violence will undoubtedly worsen. When a dissident is killed, relatives and colleagues launch an aerial memorial, and balloons are set to fly over Bahrain for a long time to come. John Cookson, SKY News.
Joining us now from our Westminster studio is Mujahid Al-Alawi from the Bahrain Freedom Movement. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, Amnesty International have condemned this trial. Do you accept their criticism that the trial was unfair?
Yes, and yesterday we got in touch with some lawyers inside Bahrain, and they said they were not allowed to see the gentleman who was killed until the last sitting, when the judgment on death was passed on.
Yet the government says that you people are actually Iranian-backed subversives and you want to bring down the government in Bahrain. Why shouldn't they be tough on you then, if that's the case?
Our aims are very clear, and we have been reiterating them for the last 2 years. The restoration of the 1973 National Assembly, which was dissolved by the Emir. We're not calling for the removal of the government. We're just calling for democratic reforms. As for link to Iranians, as the governments in the West have said and revealed to medias in Britain and America, that the Bahraini government has shown no evidence whatsoever of an Iranian involvement.
But how do you intend to achieve these aims, though? You've been planting bombs around the place. Isn't it only a matter of time before somebody gets injured who's an innocent party?
Well, we have not planted bombs. I think the violence which has been executed by the Bahraini government is for everybody to see. Many Western media people and human rights activists from the West who've been to Bahrain have come back with horror stories of torture, of killing, of ransacking inside mosques, houses. There was no evidence that the opposition was sponsored any of these bombs. But there are evidence, clear evidence, that many people were killed under torture. And this is, the torture is headed by a British officer, Mr. Ian Henderson.
Are you saying that justifies any method that you may use to achieve your ultimate political ambitions?
No, it doesn't. We are not going to resort to violence. We are going to use peaceful means, despite the fact the government trying to provoke some young people to go into violence. The danger here, of course, on the long term is if the government refuses any demand or any request from the opposition to start a dialogue, there will be some minor groups who might resort into self-defense. And it's going to be very regrettable because the region is a very sensitive region. It has 60% of the world oil reserves. It has the American Fifth Fleet, and we would like, and I would like to call here, on the British and American government to put the pressure on the Bahraini government to start a dialogue.
Mujahid Al-Alawi from the Bahrain Freedom Movement, thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.
You're watching Sky World News and Business Report. Researchers in Scotland may have solved the mystery of the so-called Gulf War syndrome.